Okay. Oh, oh, we're live and I cannot fly. Hello to you. Arias, you are indeed first.
Get it?
Excellent
I
work.
cannot fly high.
That's amazing. Okay, so at the same time, I was like catching up on all the Discord fun in our patron Discord. I also apologize. I apparently mathed wrong according to our washing machine because I was like, let's start this load of laundry. I don't know, an hour and a half ago, right? Like,
Yeah.
it was long enough ago that I was like, no way is it going to be running during the stream. Let's just get it done so that way, later we can do the dryer. And wouldn't you know that it's at its loudest spin cycle point right now as we're trying to stream.
Yeah. This is the leaf blower and Mr. Luridian all over again.
Oh my God, it sure is.
Yeah.
But it's too rainy outside to have leaf blowers,
Thank
so instead
goodness.
we're bringing the noise from inside.
Yeah. It's one of those timers where when you start the cycle, it says this will take an hour and 6 minutes. And it will take an hour and 6 minutes. It will also take some extra time, but it'll take an hour and 6 minutes.
Oh, Tethys can't hear it. Wonderful.
Oh, thank goodness. No, it's not raining at the moment. It rained this morning.
Oh, it sure
Holy smoke. It just came down in absolute buckets. Those who visit Southern California around wintertime from England, I've heard, are shocked because, it's known as a dry and arid climate, and it is here. But when it rains, it rains. It rains heavily and hard. It's just wonderful. I really enjoy it. Anyway, so good that you can't hear it. Hopefully, it doesn't get too much louder. It will be done soon. Oh, no. We're talking about the severity, not the amount. Well, I guess, or the amount in space, in time.
What it is the way that essentially the way rain works in this area is that the ground can't soak it up as quickly as it can in other places. And so it leaves a lot of standing water until that water can be soaked in. It also, on all the concrete spaces, they're not necessarily made in a way that drains well. And so anywhere you walk or drive, if there is too much rain too quickly, it just stands. And so like there were actually major freeways completely shut down this morning because there was flooding on the freeways because there was just standing water wherever they dipped, right? So it's like if there was a dip in the road, forget it, it's flooded. And Bubba Bear. Yay!
Making a Spanish, Muskegon Creole as
that sounds amazing.
I'm going to give that a little heart.
But it also meant that, like, for instance, the sidewalk outside the front of our place was 100% flooded and covered in water until about an hour ago. So it finally stopped raining and the water had a chance to drain and soak into the ground. And it's looking better now, but David's not overestimating. It is a flash flooding hell, yes. It just suddenly goes from we need water to too much. And that's, yeah.
Also, my experience or knowledge of England is that it rains a lot, but the rain is very light, very sprinkly, very misty. Here, it's just full on, a hose has been turned on and somebody's put their thumb over the front of it to blast you in the face. That's what happens. All right, so we want to talk about the poll.
We sure do, and it's open. Oh yeah, you've got it open. I'm pulling up our actual document. I realized I hadn't actually gotten into it.
So. Yeah, the poll is open. So we have a very small vowel system for this language. It was 3 vowels. And then we had 2 lengths, but we didn't think about it too much. We decided to go back and say, rather than having, 2 vowel lengths going all the way back to time immemorial, instead, there you go. See, Biblaridian confirms the torrential downpours are one of the things I miss the most about living in the U.S. We decided to have the long vowels come from sequences of like vowels. So that would be e, and oo, producing e, oo. And so then that begat the question, what happens with the other sequences. And we didn't have an answer for that, so that was what the poll was about, what to do with vowel sequences of non-like vowels. Very simple to get a handle on because there were only 3 vowel qualities. So very manageable, you know, as opposed to other languages where we've done something similar. I was thinking of like both Hauhof and Wokopiju, yeah.
Where we had like 4 tables to
Yeah.
try to summarize.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is much easier.
I feel like even Sarkishe, because we ended up with a lot of different charts for those vowels. Some of that was the harmony stuff, though.
Mm.
Ooh.
All right.
Arias, I hope. Wow, water main breakage. That's no fun.
Dang.
And hey, Danielle.
That's a bummer. All right. So we came up with a lot of different possibilities in the stream for what could happen.
It should be in a color, right? And our sounds are up by the sounds now. I know it's a change made. It's right here, I think.
There it is.
Did you notice I changed the scrolling for you?
I did. It's so nice. Did you just,
it's how much I love you.
Did you do that just for today's stream?
I did it for you.
I mean, but you're going to switch it back, yeah?
I don't know. See
Whoa.
if I can get used to it. It's how much I love you.
Oh, I love you too, Jess. And by the way, both of us now hear and sense what's coming with our washing machine.
I'm kind of holding my breath.
It's the beginning of the, you know, so if at some point you can hear it, do chime in. We'd like to let our washing machine know. It has long asked to be a part of the stream. Maybe it will be today. Okay, so yeah, we had a bunch of different options, but we narrowed it down to 4 that we presented to you. And they are here. And the first one, which I'm going to go ahead and tell you was extremely unpopular, nobody voted for it, but it is a licit and beautiful option, and that was that we'd have no changes. So these...
I just want to toss in here that David had written out the options for this poll, which included a lot of what was already, you know, brainstormed, but like he had solidified it and said, here's what would happen in each way. And I think you presented me with 8 different columns and had said, you know, we need to narrow it down. And my very first response was, well, I feel like the no change should be an option because then the diphthongs would remain as is, and I feel like that is a fair way to go. And I followed that up with, but I know no one will vote for it. And indeed, no one voted for it. But it was there because I did want to keep as an option these diphthongs, because they're good. They're good diphthongs. Yeah,
this would have been lovely. And so this, you know, was just I to I, ow to ow, and so on. Nobody voted for it. Our next least popular option was low vowel raising, which was a very minimal option. Basically, we kept everything, but we had raise in quality next to a high vowel. And with being a central vowel, it would move either forwards or backwards depending. So I would become A, but ow would become O. It would also change ia to ie and ua to uo. Very nice minimal change, and a couple of people voted for this. That was nice. Alice, if you're saying something about the audio, let us know.
Well, I feel like that means something good. Like something good just happened. It may be because everything went quiet behind us. But also, if you're seeing... I can't believe the spin cycle didn't do its thing. Normally it shakes the whole house. This time it's just done. It sang its little song just now. It's over. I also realize I'm appreciating all the people saying they would never change their scrolling direction, and that like Tethys and their partner have different scrolling directions, and so when they have to use their, you know, each other's laptops, they just both suffer.
Yeah, I
understand.
I will say that the voting on Patreon it's not as good as, for example, the polling on Tumblr. It does allow I think patrons more flexibility. But first of all, you can change your vote after you voted. And second, after you vote, it tells you immediately what the results of the poll are at that time. So something like Tumblr, it tells you the results afterwards, but you can't change your vote. And so truly, anytime there's a poll there, you're voting for your one favorite option. Here it's like, well, I'll vote and see what things look like. And then, as Bubba pointed out, Bubba pointed for A. It was very clear A was not going to win, so Bubba changed his vote to something that was more likely to win. And that makes sense. And now you've heard the washing machine.
Well, and we'll see if that song is copyrighted. It shows up in our video very clearly.
Anyway.
Oh my God, that's amazing, Alice.
Whoa. Okay, I have to repeat that so everybody can hear. This is in New Zealand. If you press specific buttons in a specific order on some washing machines here, they sing the national anthem with beeps. That is darling.
It really is.
All right, so anyway, this option did not win. Now we're going to go to the first and second place options. So option C was actually option B plus a little bit extra. So option C had the low vowel raising, and so I to A and OW to O, but then there was a second sound change added afterwards where any remaining high vowels in initial position would become a glide. And so ia first raises to EA and then becomes ye. EU, oh, no, this has even funkier stuff because the high vowels lower as well. So EU goes to EO, becomes yo, or maybe it's just, hold on.
I thought it was that they were coming closer together, and so if it was high to low, which they are, the second vowel moved closer. But no, wait, EU is on the same height.
Yeah.
Why did we? It was in your notebook.
When
wasn't
both
it,
vowels are high, the second lowers to become a mid vowel. Well, that's really nice. And so we get A and O and yay and yo and woe and way, or way and woe, depending on how you like to do it.
It sounded like a little poem or something you were reciting.
And
then we get yay and yo and way and woe.
Yeah, I thought this was an amazing option. It really provides some oomph for the A and O. It really
the way you're talking about it makes me think that you're about to follow it up with, but it did not win. Am I right?
It did not win.
It's because of the rounding, the opposite rounding. We know our patrons.
Yeah.
And in fact, when I provided options, I think, if I remember correctly, I said option C was my favorite, but that option D would win.
Yeah, but you didn't mind option D. That's why we kept it.
Yeah, I didn't mind it, and I still don't. But I did like the yay and yo and way and woe.
Yeah.
I liked it.
So the winner is option D, which I'm going to go over, but I also want to change it just slightly, basically to undo an extra change that I mentioned. So in this one, I and OW are going to A and O. And then what happens is essentially you're always producing a monophthong. And what happens is you keep the you
keep the rounding of the second.
You keep the rounding of the second.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
the fronting of the first. And then there's some heightsy doodles. So okay, but we're gonna undo this. I'm gonna reintroduce ram's horn, and I'm gonna tell you why. And that's gonna make this symmetrical. So essentially, ah is unrounded, and so you're gonna get two unround vowels. Ah is too low. It's going to be raised to the mid level. With the E in front, you're going to get a slightly raised, rather than ah, front vowel that's unrounded. So that's A. Both I and ya make A. For ua, I had said that it would just go to schwa, but what you're going to get is you're going to get an unround vowel raised up to the mid level that has the backing of the first vowel, which is oo, and that's going to be ram's horn, which is not o, but okay? I want to keep that, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Now I'll tell you why now. We have a with a grav accent for schwa and hauhoff, and I did mention how ideally I would like everything that's Romanized to be pronounced the same for this game.
Yeah.
And in order for this to be schwa, it would be the only vowel in the entire language that had a grav accent, which seems a little eh. And so if we keep it as ram's horn, we can spell it E with an umlaut. That is like, for the opposite rounding, you essentially put an umlaut over the other one. So
which would be fine, because so far our only umlaut is the E of okutiju, which would be the same as this E.
Exactly. And then for this one, it's going to be an I with 2 dots over it. Mm-hmm. Okay. The only time that won't hold is Tapahla, where everything is unrounded. And so, we'll just leave Tapahla being Tapahla.
How interesting that an I with 2 dots would not be the front vowel, but would rather be the back vowel. But the U with 2 dots is the front vowel
rather than the back
vowel.
That's right.
So like it feels like, though, the 2 dots should just do opposite rounding. Therefore, a U with 2 dots should be the vowel that I always struggle to pronounce correctly, that we know from Tapahla.
Oh, I see.
It's very interesting. That's not like an us thing that's a problem. That's just like a general how it's written in romanization systems. That's very odd.
Never has, George. Ohio. But no, Tapahla has no rounded vowels, and that was on purpose. It was due to the little mouths of our possums, and so we spell them with a, e, I, o, u, but they're a, e, I, o, u.
And I pronounce them wrong all the time. But I also pronounce everything wrong.
Tapahla. Yeah, what was an is what was it? Was like child, I think.
Maybe.
Yeah, it sounds. I'll put it this way. I won't even say when it's pronounced correctly. I'll say when I attempt to pronounce it correctly, it sounds very funny.
Well,
I'm not convinced I pronounce it correctly.
There's also a certain intonation pattern that you give to each of the languages when you pronounce it, and let's just say the possums come across as kind of when you do it, and it's great. But same goes for, and as Carl had mentioned here in chat, Halo, second season coming very, very soon. I think a week from now.
My God, a week from today.
A week from today.
Oh, wow. I'm going to do a Halo-themed LTS next week.
But it cracks me up whenever David does recordings for them, because I'm like, I swear our neighbors must think that there's just a very angry shouting person living here, because it's like, as David's recording lines, it's very loud and very aggressive, and it always makes me laugh, because it's like you can't understand anything because it's in a different language, but it's just very, very loud.
And Tethys, yes. For option D, they are all short.
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, I was just thinking about it. I want to share something. I'll put it back.
Did you also see the calendar?
Oh, yay! But this is a picture of me when I was 16 years old. Jessie's a big fan of it, so she's put it up here. But yeah, that was me with my long hair and my striped t-shirts. Back then, we wore shirts that were so oversized that it was like, I was a medium-sized teenager wearing, extra, extra, extra large shirts. It was just kind of a thing that we did. It was very good for kind of like keeping warm.
And now I'm going to judge David if he does not hang it back perfectly. Okay, it looks all right. Yeah, Patrick, the window glare was real on that, and I was going to say something to David,
Really?
but you moved the photo around enough that
Oh,
at least at some point you were able to see the entire photo.
oh well.
But the window glare coming in from the outside light was very much covering the top half for
Well,
quite a
this is why, and
moment.
I know people get tired of me saying this, but windows and glass should never have been invented. They're humanity's worst inventions, and they've only brought pain and misery to the entire world.
Welcome to the
Which
episode where David is so horrifically wrong that the entire stream just stops.
episode is that?
Anyway.
Uh,
Anyway.
by the way, that was just me making fun of myself. I have nothing against windows or glass. Big fan of it. One of my favorite lyrics is about glass. It's from U2's Lemon. Delightful song. Anyway. Oh, by the way, you know that I just wear these glasses for you all. They're basically just
No, he wears them.
costume.
No. He's starting to finally admit that he can't really see as well as he thinks he used to be able to see.
What was I going to say? I am starting to get the thing where it's a little more difficult to see in lower light, which is unfortunate. There's a history of cataracts in my family, so that's probably something that is in my future. I'm also a big fan of Blind Lemon, and I played Jesse, my favorite album of theirs, Soup, earlier as part of our Sunday tradition.
Indeed. I was going to say samesies on the cataracts, so yay.
Well, I mean, Tethys, was anything invented?
All right. Everything's just a reimagining of something else.
Right, but also know that it is something that can naturally occur because of things and stuff that happens, and so people would have come across it and been like, "Wow, what is this? Can we do that?" So the point is well taken. So we need to write this up, and we also need to. Okay, these are green, that as they should be.
Oh, Bubba Bear. That's really cool. Sorry. Sometimes that chat does not want you to scroll, and so I do apologize. That's not my fault. The art of language discovery. Yes.
That's really cool. Okay. So.
Oh, and I don't think you've mentioned this here on stream, but I know we said it on Discord. A big thank you to Bubba for pointing out that we had forgotten to color code the IPA chart to show the emergence of some phonemes and the loss of some others. And so thank you for reminding us because, we had just forgotten to update that. And so now it is updated and it's here. So thank goodness.
This should all be correct now at the moment. We'll see what happens. Okay. And then go ahead and throw that in there.
Ooh, look at all those vowels.
Yeah. How do you produce the
I can look it up, but in the meantime, if you want to put it on the other
there,
keyboard.
I got it.
Yeah. Now the ram's horn.
Yeah, how's that work?
I am looking at the keyboard.
Oh, well, oops. Jake makes a very good point.
What?
We don't have the bilabial fricatives at all anymore, do we?
I don't remember. Do we? Did we kill them all?
I think we did.
Oh, wait. I slightly remember that now. Yes, because that was actually one thing that we had even said that we would kill.
I mean, I think that, yeah, I think that we just did. Let me,
I may need to add Ramshorn. I'm not seeing Ramshorn on our Conlangray keyboard.
let me go to Lexergy. Yeah, HV, right? Yeah, yeah, they don't exist anymore. Well pointed out. So then not super accurate. The next one will be. What is? No, it's. I see. Copy style. Paste style. Da, 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 da. Okay.
So.
Oh, they'll have commas in both, or commas and slashes in both. It depends on what they are. So, for example, if this column were rather than dental and alveolar were just coronal, then you could imagine a language where you saw this. In other words, the slashes separate the voicing, the comma separates the type of consonant. For this one, I suppose, if you'd like, it makes sense to do this because the quality is not changing for these length distinctions. I think that makes sense. You know, you could imagine also doing that for roundedness, but I don't prefer that myself.
Sorry. Oh my gosh, this is going to be so much better for my neck. Okay.
Okay.
Got my computer up here now.
All right, so that's the charts are good. Now we need to get to the sound changes. Can
you hand me the brown glasses case? Because I need to switch my glasses. I did not do that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I'm ready to get serious so that way I can see every time I look up. What are you looking at over there? I saw you looking at things.
You know what?
What?
Some things are private.
Yeah, my things. All right, now it's serious. Now I can see the whole screen without squinting my eyes.
By the way, if we can look at this vowel chart again, you know that it is typologically more common to have more front distinctions than back distinctions. But knowing exactly what sound changes we did in order to produce this system, you can see that, well, we came by it honestly. And so it's not like we just randomly chose these vowels. It just happened. And that's why you do it this way. So that there's actually a story for when you have things that are typologically odd and it's not just random.
It also produces a distribution pattern where those sounds that are the result of very specific sound changes are only going to occur in smaller situations and smaller, patterns, and that's a very natural thing. And so, that's really cool too.
All right, I think that since G1, I think that we can do this in just one sound change, and it's going to be a table, kind of like we've done.
Okay.
So we need to determine where it's going to.
Speaking
happen.
of sound changes, as a little update, David discovered an error in Howell.
Oh yeah.
Where one of our older words, and by older I mean we just created it
first ones,
very early on. We had in its modern form as allo or alu.
Modern would be allo.
Allo.
It was the floppy doggy ear.
Yeah, so the floppy versus the stand-up ears. So the floppy ears, yeah, we had it in the dictionary and everything as allo. But we had later reversed the order of some sound changes where it really should have been of was the final form.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that ended up having to be changed.
Yeah.
The word, we didn't change the sound changes because we were hoping that we had those in a good place at the end.
We had two sound changes. One where labialized consonants at the end of words would actually, the labialization would kind of be reified as an actual vowel. So like at the beginning, you could have like, Guam, but at the end it would be Mago or Mago at one point because the labialization would turn into a vowel. And we had this labialized L, right? So, and that was how al became allo. However, we also had a separate sound change that just killed the LW phoneme across the board, turned it into W. And at one point in time, the ordering was such so that al would become allo before that happened. We ended up having to change it for different reasons, for totally different reasons that resulted in now it's actually av. It's fine though because we wanted to preserve the fact that you could actually recover that there were two different phonemes there, the labialized and non-labialized L, and you still can, just not in that way, different way. Oh my gosh, Auld Lang Time. Jonathan, there's your song title, do it. Anyway, so I'm going through our sound changes and seeing which ones might apply to VB sequences. Epenthetic stop insertion does not. Nasalization does not. I explained this into the Discord, but I'll explain it again here. We decided that at the proto stage, we would allow CVC, like max syllables, or CVV. We wouldn't allow CVVC. And so there's never going to be a vowel-vowel sequence that is going to have nasalization, as a thing. So we don't have to worry about that. So that doesn't apply. This doesn't apply. Nasal assimilation, this doesn't apply. This is intervocalic voicing, which does not apply because whether it's between two vowels or one doesn't matter. Voiceless nasal fortition.
No,
Nope, doesn't apply. If we had vowel deletion, it might, but we don't at this stage. Fricative plenition before round vowels.
So that may
this
apply.
Applies.
Yeah.
This applies. So we need to make a decision, and I'll show you a potential form where this would matter.
But 8 doesn't. I mean, now that we know 7 matters, that's actually a good place.
Yeah, that's
to
where we can stop.
Everything below it is all of these become this regardless, and so below that it doesn't matter anymore.
Okay, so it's EU, right? That becomes U.
Yes, because it maintains the rounding of the second vowel.
All right, so let's. We'll do this one so we don't have to worry about. And
we, because we would become I can't do it.
Okay, so we've got these these 4 possible words here. I'm actually going to put these first. These top ones won't change. This is going to become that. And this is going to become this. And this was intended. We were going to kill this. And so, but before this round vowel, vuta becomes wuta, whereas otherwise, if it doesn't do that, it just becomes a V. So vita becomes vita. And that is as it is. So depending on where we put this vowel-vowel sequence, vowel change. Vuta.
So distracted by the birds that just keep coming.
Yeah.
There are so many birds.
Could become. Let's do this. This is one's E, right?
Yes.
Which would become Vita, and applying the same sound changes in that order. this would become vita, which would become, oops, vita. Now, this is if VV simplification happens first. Now, we're going to do the opposite. If VV simplification happens second. All right. I'm actually going to say last. Wait, no. No, it's just this one. Vita becomes...
You keep going. I'm trying to capture the birds. Okay. A very short video is going on to Discord now because I need you all to see that I am not joking that the birds are taking over the skies. And now I was super paying attention the whole time, mind you. Making sure David knows that. All right.
Okay, then.
There you go. All right, video's in chat. So now you can see a short video of some of the bird action out there.
Okay. So let's think about these two options. The intention of this fricative lenition rule is that a consonant that is bilabial is rounding next to a rounded thing, or rounding even further. If we do vowel simplification first, we will end up with the consonant being rounded next to a rounded thing and not rounded next to a not rounded thing. If we do it second, we'll actually end up with the opposite. We'll have it rounded before the unrounded thing and unrounded before the rounded thing.
Which is so wild.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. I don't know that it's possible to take video and like mute it easily from my phone, so that way the video was silent that I put on Discord. But instead, like it had us talking as I was filming the birds.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so sorry about that. But yeah, that is wild that it could happen that way. I myself feel that as much as I think that it's hilarious that we could have this completely opposite intention happening, from a point of view of just saying it, because it's not the first, like it's not the rounded E up front that's a problem. Vita, vita, fine. It's the second one, that back unrounded
Vita.
vita versus vita. I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah.
And it's not even that. It's like, listen, there are certain segments that are awkward for me to say just because I'm not used to saying them, and I'm obviously not used to the back unrounded vowel. That's something that we've seen since season 2. It just, I don't know that I prefer the sound of it. I think I prefer the vita.
You know, so we're working with all possible information. I'm going to add Tethys's example because I didn't think of it, but it is relevant.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So
good call.
This is Vauta, and the simplification becomes...
Oh my goodness, Mateus. So many, so flocks of crows flying into the dome of the Parliament building. I'm sure that was wild to see. They also had many bats flying around there. Like we just saw so many bats. around the big buildings, but specifically around the Parliament building, and like just took videos and videos of just the never-ending bats.
Wait, sorry, did that wrong. There we go.
I mean, as far as that one goes, like either is fine. I in general prefer a V over a W.
Here we have more
in
W.
general.
Here we have more V.
Yeah, but it's that
opposite rounding that going from, you know, something like this, and this is actually why you'd want to say it was, hate to even raise the possibility, but
I forget. Can you remind me? Is that the?
it's a W with no lip rounding.
It's where it's just a velar glide.
Yeah, retta.
Or approximate rather.
Retta.
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 Mm.
Yeah. Raising what? It's already high. I mean, so I think this one is interesting because it's like, wow, why is the opposite thing happening? And it's because of the history. But I think this makes a lot more sense. Like, to the point, like, I was writing this up with the intention of doing a poll, but I think we should just do this one.
I think so.
Yeah. They can go higher.
Just keep pushing them up.
Hey, Magpie, D1.
What?
Yeah.
That was actually much quieter than you usually make sounds. And so I congratulate you on being mindful for perhaps once of the microphones and the headphones on the other end of our string.
In order to produce the ultra high vowels, you actually have to take, rather than putting the tongue body up against the top of the palate, you have to take it back, insert it into the nasal cavity, and put it up against the top of the nasal cavity.
You joke, but like I feel like there's a human being out there who's like, watch what I can do.
I think the uvula is there to try to prevent you from doing that.
Ugh. Anyway. Let's say it happens first. I mean, we can have another poll. I really hope you're joking, Miles.
I
feel like you're not.
No, I don't think he is.
I really wanted them to be joking.
They are. If not, why not? Why not? Rita.
And then Patrick followed it up with a similar thing.
I'll throw this in just so that everybody knows what we're discussing. The one with a single hump is where are you? Where are you, my little friend?
Which one are you looking for?
This. One of the many sounds in the IPA that were added, either just for the French or just for French or just for English. But this is the glide version of U. So, and it's this should be that, obviously. Sorry. And so if this one, is, ueta, this could be uita, rather than wita. Wita. Personally, I don't think it's necessary.
I'm getting flashbacks, though. Didn't we technically do this pronunciation for Wukukishu, but it never became like a part of the orthography because it was just like, this is just how it's said. So Wukukishu or Tapahla or
it wouldn't have been Tapahla. It would have been either Wokothishi or Sarkije.
Maybe it was Sarkije. But like something happens where like effectively this happens. I'm gonna look it up. I actually now I'm going back and saying it's probably Wokotiju. But yeah, we have this sound, but it never gets represented just because it's like, well, this is just how it's said. So, you know, it's always predictable, always in this location.
There are plenty of sounds that are used in plenty of languages.
Miles has
but,
also said it's Wokotiju. So
but ones that occur in English and French tend to have symbols for them. If they occur in other languages but don't occur in English and French, they tend to not have symbols for them. They just say, oh, just use this symbol and add a diacritic in IPA.
Yeah. And we even say, like, it's just not going to be reflected in the romanization.
Oh, it is Wokothishi.
Yeah, it is. And so I was going to say Miles had said that as well, so I was glad I didn't misremember that.
Yeah.
So, you know, the beavers and the mice could have this in common about their language. It's, you know, you never know.
Yeah, I don't think we ever have a sequence of W followed by ram's horn if we do this first, because it's unrounded, and so it won't make V go to W. No, beavers are rodents, Miles.
When do we, though? Okay. Pages is taking a hot minute to actually populate and update.
Sure is, Magpie. Like the entire shape of IPA is completely and totally Eurocentric. It's like, all right, well, we have it now, so we'll just do what we can with it. But there are things, there's phonetic detail that it captures and phonetic detail that it does not capture, and it treats one as more important than the other just by default.
Am I correct in remembering that the only way we get ram's horn is ah?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, you're right. So if this happens first, we unround it before the wa happens, so it doesn't matter. Okay.
Yeah, we'll never.
I just wanted to make sure I had that right in my head, and I couldn't find in the notes where we had deleted everything already, and so.
So we're gonna create this rule. It's gonna be a table. Call it EV simplification, and it's going to be. And potentially that, but all right. Proto sequences of two vowels simplify to a single vowel. Like vowels will be lengthened versions of the vowel. Non-like vowels will simplify to one of a number of monophthongs. The table below will illustrate the changes. Okay. Yeah.
As a sort of side note, someone had mentioned Fiat Lingua chat today. I don't know which chat that was, but that does remind me that there's a new Fiat Lingua article out, yeah?
Yeah, it's true. It's somebody made an attempt to create an IPA that was influenced by the four original writing systems rather than just Roman. It's an interesting idea. I don't know if it's necessarily the best implementation of it, but it's an interesting idea, and kind of like addresses the idea of, well, what's up with IPA. However, it still does treat it like an alphabet, which itself is another issue. Because there's elements of like phonetic speech that if you write it with an alphabet kind of blurs the lines, which is that even if you pronounce the same letter, and don't, you know, these are these are all different and in kind of important ways. That is, uh, um, how to illustrate this. The vowels of whether you aspirate them or not, doesn't matter. The vowels of ka, ta, and pa are technically different because the formants are coming from different places. And by treating them as discrete alphabetic elements, you're ignoring this. You know, is it super important? Not necessarily, but it's a phonetic. It's supposed to be a phonetic transcription system. So if you want to capture that level of phonetic detail, treating them like an alphabet makes it seem like these vowels are always the same, all else being equal, and it's simply not true. Anyway,
I think another interesting thing about treating them separately is things like the way that, for instance, a K is produced, and like you were focusing on the vowels there, but like ka versus ki, for most speakers, your tongue, like the actual K that's being produced is different because of your tongue placement for the vowel that will follow. And so it's like slightly not palatalized. Getting closer though, it's pulled forward more than a ka K is. And then also, like, I think one consonant where it's really, really apparent, especially in a language like English, where we don't necessarily have a true glottal H in most cases, is that really anytime you have H and then followed by a vowel, it's a voiceless version of the vowel that follows. So he, who, like what you'll notice is that it's actually just voiceless vowel, instead of he, who. And so, but like you can really feel it when you go he, who, ha, like it's just moving around your mouth.
Yeah, to Graham's point, and this is definitely to the credit of those who created the IPA, they never said that this was supposed to be science fact. It really does work better as kind of a shorthand, works very well as a phonemic transcription system. And anytime you actually look at a serious phonetic paper, what you're looking at are spectrograms. And then, you know, IPA characters are thrown in to help, but I mean, it's the actual data that's important, in which case you are just looking at spectrograms and things like that. And it's like, it's kind of like a spectrogram is a great big picture, and so then you throw in the bottom, here's an IPA character, here's an IPA character to give you an idea, to kind of help zero in. So even the users of IPA understand that it is an abstraction, a representation, and it's not the actual thing.
Right.
Yep. CD mean in that? George, you said you can't CD have a truly narrow phonetic transcription system that's just a waveform, right? What does CD mean?
I feel like it's a typo, but that just may mean that I really don't understand.
Yeah. I just wonder if this is a new lexeme that I can add to my vocabulary.
Well, I don't know.
Gosh, I'm waiting with bated breath. I really want CD to mean something.
All right.
Oh.
David is so disappointed.
That is CD too bad. All right, let's get this table up and
Let's
running.
get this CD table, eh?
Yeah. Let's see here. So we've got ooh.
And ooh.
It's just getting worse and worse.
David, what are you doing?
Delete row. Okay, so we have becomes modern. There. Okay. Next. This becomes A.
Sure does.
And this becomes O.
I just want to write that as O instead of AU.
We'll think about it.
Oh, man.
So I can say all those, but I can't see to hear the difference.
Nice. Nice.
Hold on.
You seed it. Nice.
All right. So now.
I feel like you should now copy one of the monophthongs since they're all monophthongs and you're having to delete more, but you know.
Now, and we're sure that this that I don't want to screw this up. That one becomes E, right?
Because it gets the rounding from the second vowel. I mean, I will pull up Patreon on my screen here. And pull up that poll description just to triple check. E, U becomes E.
Okay, and ua is the one that becomes.
Ua becomes the ram's horn, which you took back from the schwa here.
Yeah. Just a second.
Sure thing.
But yeah, if we keep this vowel around, we're gonna have to type it in the IPA descriptions in the lexicon.
There are several things in Howell that we don't have on the Conlangering keyboard, so it's like we've done this to ourselves.
Estonian made a great mistake, an enormous mistake, a catastrophic mistake in using a tilde for that. I will not replicate that mistake.
Miles, I have no idea what you're talking about, but that is a fascinating oddity. This book, CDB, where something like CDB, DBZ, A, BZB would be like, see the B? The B is a busy bee.
Oh, that's cute. Is it a picture book? I want to
turning on all the things.
I want to do something. I don't know if it's possible, but I want to try. Yeah. Yeah. Look at that.
Oh, did you need to check anything else in the?
No, I think that this is it, and I think it's correct.
Okay. Because the other one was the unround. Yeah, the unround.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Miles remembers it from elementary school. So
nice.
Not just some guy. So arias, there was an entire movement in France in the early 20th century called the Oulipist movement, and their goal was to produce formally maximalist literature. And so there are a number of them, like mostly French, where like they'll write an entire novel without using the letter E. And then there's also one where they wrote a sonnet that can't, like a human being can't possibly read all of them because it's like one of those kids flip book type of things. So you've got 16 lines and the rhyming scheme is all the same, but if you flip a flap, it'll have the first line of sonnet B and the next 15 lines of sonnet A. And then you can flip another flap and say it'll have, sonnet B, then 4 lines of sonnet A, then another line of sonnet B, and then more lines of sonnet A. and there are like, I don't know, 26 sonnets or something, maybe more than that. And so if you can math out how many combinations that would be, and there's like thousands upon thousands of sonnets, some of which might make no sense in terms of what they mean, but they will all rhyme, so the form will be consistent. Anyway, the Oulipists were big fans of doing things like this, and they were very successful. But a lot of their work was, well, a formal success may not produce the kind of aesthetic experience one wishes for when reading, poetry or a novel or something like that. It's more like an achievement that needs to be appreciated. It's like, well, you did it, you know. Kind of like, for example, I don't know, taking the dictionary and finding every single circle and filling it in with pink. It's like, all right, you did it. I'm not sure what we're supposed to think about this now. I guess it's kind of cool, but like, yeah, that's really impressive. You went through an entire thousands-page dictionary and found every little circle and every little B, D, A, and whatever and filled it in with pink. Really cool. Anyway. Oh my gosh, you're right. There is an opportunity for somebody to create, Dua Lipa and somehow combine the music of Dua Lipa with the Olympus movement. It needs to be done somehow. Anyway, all right. Look at that. We did something. And
Cool.
Yeah, like I think that we might be ready to move on to grammar.
But also Magpie, the two books are related. The Eat Shoots and Leaves adult version and then the illustrated kids book. It's the same author and phenomenon with an illustrator for the kids book where it's just meant to be like if you move the comma it means something different, according to prescriptivist use of punctuation. And so anyway, it is though the same like idea, and yeah, they titled them the same thing. Oh yeah, it's going off again.
But they probably can't hear it.
I hope not. Couldn't hear the washing machine. We should be good.
Cheers.
Cheers. And I know, right, Miles? I'm like, what?
Come on.
Already?
Oh no, it's not a washing machine this time. There is some sort of building. Cheers. Like I think Jesse's right. Like some sort of factory within earshot, and their alarm keeps going off. So it's one of those like alarms. It's definitely not a car alarm, and it's not like a house alarm.
It's definitely a building, and it's coming from the direction where there are some industrial buildings just way back that way. And so I don't know what it is, but like one afternoon, there's an entire afternoon of it, and I was just like, this is insane. That's right, David.
Man, oh, I don't even have anything to say about this.
I'm already eating mine.
Embarking on grammar, take this. You'll need it. Go, Pico. So, we've done a lot with our sound system. I feel like this language has a character, and it's really cool, but we're now essentially back to square one. So, I will say that something that makes sense, it would make sense for us to look at suffixation or prefixation with single vowels because of our new sound change. For example, let's say that we had some form kana and we had a couple of suffixes that were just like, I don't know, eat, and then maybe, I don't know, oop. And so we have kana and, I don't know, toluk, all right? Suddenly these things could have forms like, tolukit and tolukup, but these would be Conet and Conope. And that's kind of cool. And then it's like there's no like the suffix is this if it's added after a consonant, and it's this if it's added after a vowel. It's always the same. What would happen with a final long vowel? Oh, well, it's not just a final long vowel, it's a final VV. It doesn't matter what it is. So let's say there's, I don't know, Pino. Well, nope. That's not, all right. So we have this sequence that at some point is be now eat, and also be now oop. And so then that would be the question with these. So it's like, all right, so then what happens? Probably some sort of consonantal epenthesis. We could play with the idea of gliding, but then that wouldn't make any sense if it were that. So but those are forms that we could look at. Do we have a proto-H? We don't have a proto-H. Okay, something to keep in mind. Because I was like, well, if you glide U to W and E to yeah, maybe you glide A to H. But it doesn't really make sense without a proto-H. Anyway. So this is just taking advantage of the sound changes that we have.
I like it.
Cool. Where do you want to start?
That's a question right there.
Mm-hmm.
Walking right past us. No mail. No mail.
Yeah.
Well, I would actually love to get, I guess, your general thoughts right now on, well, first of all, we also have not talked about stress and or tone.
Oh, no, we haven't.
And so if we want to talk about stress, that could be helpful, especially as we talk about potential prefixes and or suffixes.
Mm-hmm.
That can really be helpful in deciding what we may do. But then I would also like to get, I guess, an overall sense of like how we're feeling with headedness in the language. What patterns we're kind of feeling for this project. And then from there, start with the nouns. Let's start thinking about how we want to do this. Speaking of grammar, though, and like things that, you can think about, just for all the patrons who get podcast level rewards, remember that today a new podcast dropped. And so get some tense and aspect in the podcast.
We really got to show everybody. I should have thought of that. We should have pulled it up so that we could show your animation.
I wonder, can I send something to your screen?
I think so.
Let's see what happens. One way or another, because I can either just copy and paste it to... I'll get it there. Don't worry. I'll get it there.
Try copying it and I'll try pasting it. Let's try that first. It'll be the easiest. It sure did work.
There we go.
All right.
And then I like to right-click it and open it with QuickTime instead of like it tries to do like an Apple player if you don't do that.
All right. By the way, I have an idea about stress, which I'll talk to you about in a second. But we released a podcast today about tense and aspect and, different ways that they work. And in order to help illustrate different tense and aspectual distinctions, Jessie did an actual animation. She drew a whole bunch of images and animated them, and it is incredible. So I'm going to open it and we're going to look at it because it is just astounding. Oh yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
feel like David is way more excited. Oh, there we go. Okay, it is open. I will.
I'm gonna go off
It
this.
at first was not fully in screen, but I know you moved it. There we go. So now it appears to be fully in screen.
All right. So here we have a little mouse called J Mouse, and on the couch over here is a bunny named D Bunny. And J Mouse is about to start cutting up some vegetables while D Bunny is working on a font and receives a few text messages. Also, watch the window where a bunny, or where not a bunny, a bird will fly by. Here we go. Look at that! Look at that! Oh my God.
Thank you, Mateus. And David also actually comments on the fennel in the podcast because he's like, the fennel.
It's so good. Like, her drawing of fennel is absolutely perfect. Oh, anyway. So there is a sun going across the window and a bird flies by.
And yes, Patrick, the bunny is working on a computer. In fact, is creating glyphs. And so it's a font lab situation. And if you were to zoom in and watch, there's actually new glyphs pop up in the little windows as the frames go on. So yes, it's this bunny is very fast at making glyphs.
Yeah, much faster than that bird is at flying. Let me see if I just hit space if it'll show it again. Yeah. Oh, I just love it so much.
Mateus, yeah, it would have made sense to have the mouse in the background, but I feel that in our relationship, I'm the mouse and David is the rabbit. And I'm the vegetable chopper. And this is quite often a situation you actually see in our house. David working while I'm chopping vegetables. Oh, the ding is just text messages going on.
Yeah, they're text messages.
And it's
on the computer.
It's a way of just talking about different kinds of events that tense and aspect can handle. And a ding is something that is very much a T-lick.
Yeah.
I mean T-lick. Very much T-lick, where when it happens, and there's no duration for it. And so it's part of the tense and aspect discussion.
Yeah. Anyway, I wanted everybody be able to see that because, the way our podcasts work is they go live generally when the season is done. Patrons see them first, but I wanted everybody to see that. It's just fills me with so much joy.
And Mateus, I am the same.
Achievement, yes.
I very much see chopping vegetables as being very meditative. And so, yeah, there are definitely times where it's like I just kind of close the kitchen off and put on, music and just like I zone and do my veggie chopping.
So I wanted to make a recommendation for stress that I think could be interesting. If we were doing heavy stress, you could imagine something like this, kala, kala, but then also kale. And so the former VV sequences will get stress even if they're now monophthongs.
I like that.
It's kind of a neat idea. So
that's how it works in Schwadi.
Oh, neat.
Because the heavy syllables get stressed, but then like as some diphthongs are reduced, then they just keep it.
Yep. All right. So let's make that so, and then just talk about placement.
So we're saying stress is typically penultimate.
I don't know. That's the question. Let's look at forms with equal. And that was just an example.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even necessarily think that for the first one it has to be kala. It could be kala. Um, what speaks to you?
Have we done a just straight up stress final? Because sarkije is stress initial, right?
Yes,
And then we have a lot of like shifty
then we have
stress.
tone, and then like for Hauhoff, it's like it's yeah no. Then for Ingala, it's essentially initial stress,
Except
right?
with the sound changes, sometimes it moves to second syllable, which is why it has to be marked with an accent because it's unexpected. Um,
So this
and
could
so this could be our first
default to
final.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, default to right, kind of like opposite Dothraki. And then
And then it can get pulled to a syllable to the left if it's heavy. Is that
yeah, and so then the question is how far? Do we want to
okay?
pull it to just the penultimate or also the anti-penultimate? Um, so we know that all of these are kala, kalana, kalanata. So the forms we need to look at are like um, kailana, ka, lai, na, kaila, na, ta. Actually, not this one. That's obvious what that's going to be. Basically, we need to look at kailana and kailanata.
And also, Jake is asking, would a heavy syllable also be a coda consonant and not a diphthong?
Yes.
Okay, and so we've got that. So you're saying with the final form, you would see it as either being pulled all the way to the heavy syllable, or it's too far back, so it remains on the final syllable.
And depending on how we foot it, the initial syllable, like there could be this distinction where there's like um, let's see if I can do this. Font. We could have secondary stresses, and in order for this to actually mean anything, we'll have to have some stress-sensitive something somewhere. But where, like, kalanata, right? But kelanata, in other words, a secondary stress sits on the first one, or it just pulls it. I don't know.
Okay, so I see. At first, because I was also reading chat at the same time, so my brain was split in half for a second in terms of keeping up with what was happening. And so secondary stress would be expected to radiate in this situation, kind of radiate backwards every other syllable, unless there's a heavy syllable to pull that secondary stress to another one.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of keeping the primary stress within a final foot.
Okay.
And so it's either going to be the ultimate syllable or penultimate syllable if it's heavy. I do like, however, the idea of letting that pervade into the secondary stress system. I find it interesting to also then, like for instance, if we had two back to back heavy syllables, we could theoretically then have back to back secondary stress, primary stress.
That would essentially be this, but well, actually, this is a light syllable. But if it was within the foot, right?
Well, but would it be pulled to the? Would it be pulled if in the foot there's two light syllables?
Only if we started footing from the left.
But if we start footing from the right,
Yeah.
then it would not.
Yeah, so that's another question. We could, assign stress from the right and assign feet from the left, and then that would give us kelana.
Okay. What is this scenario though, um, where I feel that no matter what, it would be a four-syllable word where you have like um, kale neta, where it'd be like kale nata, where kind of like secondary and primary stress would end up being.
This might only end up in two options, but we could make this the poll.
Mm.
We can chat about it after and present our options and have them vote.
I like that because it's not going to affect, I don't think, my view of what our discussions are going to be on grammar moving forward. Um, um, but like, I do like the idea that we're going to do final stress basically, but that it's going to be weight sensitive.
Yeah.
And then we do have to decide if we have it not only weight sensitive, but within a foot, how the feet are assigned, and what direction we're moving with assigning feet.
Cool. For those who feel like they may be a little bit lost, we're using a lot of terminology that has to do with the phonological evaluation of stress, and the terminology overlaps with poetics, but is not identical. But the nice thing is that whatever the terminology, you're going to have some actual forms to compare where it's like, if you choose this, this is going to happen. If not, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And it will be quite good. Karis is plugging George's LCC talk on the metrical grid. And I also want to share, I don't even know like if it can be successfully shared, but one of the first things that Jessie shared with me that absolutely blew me away because of how unbelievably brilliant it was. She created a PowerPoint not to show but to use for her students. And this PowerPoint was kind of like a little bit like Conlang Venture.
It was actually one of the ways that kind of planted seeds for how
Yeah.
I wanted it to work.
And basically it was like you start with some nonce forms and you make decisions about, are you going to foot from the right or the left? Are you assigning stress from the right or the left, and so on? And you click the links and they take you to different slides in the PowerPoint, and you end up at the result and be like, okay, you've chosen this stress system and here's what the forms look like. Unbelievably brilliant. I just couldn't even fathom. But it really works best if you actually have PowerPoint, not Keynote, but PowerPoint. I'm not sure if it works in Keynote. And
I need to check that out.
And you're not like playing it; you're actually using it. And Mateus is asking if they can have it. Like you can, but like you've got to use it just so. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's I'm actually, let me see if I can pull that out because you can actually show it here. It may take a
while to open.
minute. I want to find where I think would be the more recent one. Okay, I feel like this one was probably okay. And I don't know what it's going to do. It is a very interesting question about whether we could open it in Keynote.
Gonna try it.
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Good luck if we crash.
Yeah, if we disappear, I'm really, really sorry.
Also, it's gonna fill up the screen, isn't it?
I don't know what's going to happen because you do have to play it.
You do.
You can't just go through the slides. Like you have to hit
Oh, you
play.
have to hit play.
And so I'm really, really curious to see what's going to happen if we make it through the verifying stage. And I don't know.
Let's, while we wait.
Yeah, while we wait, David, take us further.
All right.
I'm actually on my computer going to attempt to open it in Keynote and see
Sure.
what happens to it, because then I can let you know if you can just abandon the verification process here.
Yeah. I don't know if Bibleridian's still around, but and I don't think that I've seen Logan today. But if we wanted to talk about beavers in general, maybe we can think about ways to approach how they deal with nouns. So we know that they're builders. They have dams. I feel like that they would distinguish noun number. That would be something that would be useful to them. I like the shifting stress because it kind of reminds me of the cute poppiness of the mice with the tones, except that it's stress rather than tone. Behoove us not to have an agglutinating language. It's,
As a side note, I did check it.
I don't see noun classes.
Minimally works in Keynote, but none of the hover notes work, and the navigation is not the same in terms of being able to go back to a slide that you had been on previously. And so if this doesn't work with PowerPoint, we can at least show, and then later I can put it up on Discord.
The verifying Microsoft PowerPoint progress bar has reached the end, which is encouraging, but nothing has happened since then.
Which could mean that the whole thing has just died. And so Karis, I have just noted in general that anything that is like Google Doc or Google PowerPoint, whatever, it does not work the way I would prefer. So at some point, what I need to do, David, is actually turn this into fodder for like a part of my website. Where you go to different pages and you can get the hover text, you can get the click for more information, you can do all that, and it just needs to be part of my website, I think.
That's not a bad idea.
It'll take some time because, as anybody following along on my website knows, I'm horribly behind at actually posting anything I've done in my Nissa language, even though like I have the stuff, I just haven't gotten it there. So when I say it should become part of my website, I mean like look for it in a year.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The progress bar has gone backwards. And yeah, essentially what you've created is a hypertext work. And so that's exactly what the web can do very well.
And yeah, it's now gone further backwards.
Yeah. So noun classifiers, yeah, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing. If this is clear and obvious Finnish bias, but if we had a singular, plural, and then a nominative and a partitive, we could really lean into the noun classifieriness, where it's like you don't have to use a plural if it's modified by anything.
Like by a number or?
Yeah, or even an adjective. Well, it's almost like punting number to the classifiers. That may be too much. I like this idea. I'm going to write down some notes. I don't want it to get too far to that so that we end up with a language without noun number like sarcasé. And noun classifiers doing more heavy lifting than I feel they ought to. But I will take some notes here.
Actually, curious, David.
Something's happening.
Oh, something is happening. I was just going to say, I've got it pulled up on my laptop. I wonder if we could do screen mirroring and it could.
No, but
like it's making everything. Oh, PowerPoint is trying to open.
The thing that I was trying to say is that they're not going to be able to see the whole thing because the aspect ratio for this PowerPoint is going to be this.
Right, but most of the text occurs right here.
Okay.
And so if it opens, it will be fine, I think. But yeah, we'll see. I'm just going to say it's doing better than it was when I was teaching and had to wait online for things to happen. And I think it may be open behind this when you're ready.
There we are. All right, so we have to play this, yeah?
Yeah, so you have to actually, in a...
View only.
Yeah, that's fine. If you go to slideshow, I think. Oh, play from start. You can do that too.
So yeah, okay. They're only going to be able to see half of it.
Right, but I'm waiting for it to catch up on screen before we look. But most of the slides only have text in the left hand. And so we don't need to talk through this. This is just directions on how to use it. Waiting for things to show up. And so yeah, there's navigation and different stuff. Okay, but first, and so like the first decision is, do you want fixed stress or weight sensitive stress? And David, if you just hover over like an option here, a little note shows up. So here on weight sensitive, it says where the stress occurs in a word will either be predictable by features other than syllable location or by lexical entry. And
why does this one have a 1?
And then here, each word's stress will be predictable and based on the syllables location in the word. They get a superscript number to indicate which is more common in natural languages. So fixed stress is more common than weight sensitive stress. And like, so when there's only 2 options, the more common one gets a 1. When there's 3 options, the most common one gets a 1, the second most a 2, and then, you know, I just left it off after that. So that way you can decide, like, if you care about that. I think David just clicked, and we're getting a beach ball situation. This computer is really doing its best. There we go. And so now it's like, okay, you wanted that? Cool. How do you want to decide where to place the stress? Do you want it to be, you know, by features of the sounds in the syllable? Or do you want it to be by lexical markings where it's got to be determined word by word basis, which means like as you create a word, you've got to basically decide I'm putting stress here.
By the way, I'm going to make decisions based on what we were talking about with the Beaver language.
Okay, and so then what do you want to attract the stress since they're going to be definable features? Do you want it to be long vowel, coda, a closed syllable, both long vowels and closed syllables, or something else? So for instance, in some languages, it's actually vowel quality that will attract stress. So like an E vowel will attract stress while, say, you know, an I vowel will not. And on this, you can also see long vowels are the most common stress attractors across natural languages. Other definable features is the second most common, and then third most common is sensitive to both. Now you get to decide which way you want the stress to go. And right now we're talking about either right-oriented or right-edged. And this is where footing comes into play.
Yeah. And so this is kind of like what we're trying to decide between. And it's that trisyllabic form where it will be, I'm going to throw a long vowel in there just to make it a lot nice and easy. Kalana, right? Is it going to be kalana or is it going to be kalana? Right-edged is kalana. No, actually, kaalana, if they're all
Yeah,
short.
if
Yeah,
it's
it'd be kaalana. Right-oriented would be kaalana. Because you can see this syllable's kind of extrametrical. Let's go with right-oriented. Oriented for right now.
do you want secondary stress?
You know we do.
And then,
Oh my God, kala.
And so here, and I don't bother really for these, the more important ones are down below because it's like technically if you're doing right oriented, you've got some wiggle room when your window is going to be closed. But these forms, by the way, in general, there are two bullet lists of forms that get longer and longer on the right side. You can't see that half of the screen.
Yeah.
Sorry. And oh, I think they may actually be from your book. Some of them are anyway, not all of them, I don't think. Because my students were using your book as a text.
When you created those?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And but anyway, the forms on the final like slides are all the same. So like kala, kala, pulim, pulim, so on. So they're like all the same, and the only difference is like where and how stress is assigned.
Yeah.
And so now the question is, do we like avila, right, as our window is where it is?
Yeah. Bondule, and we have this longer one. Begonambasti. Ooh, wow. Begonambasti. Begonambasti. Wow. But of course, we couldn't have that in our language. We can't have long vowel with a coda.
No.
But we could have bise suli, as opposed to it would be, bise suli. It would actually be bise suli. So the first syllable would have a little bit more weight to it. Anyway.
Well, and also this particular way of doing it, I've done it according to the way that most natural languages with this type of system do it, where stress moves towards the right, unless there's a heavy syllable. But when you have two light syllables, a lot of languages will actually have the first light syllable stressed instead of the final. We don't have to do that, though. Mm-hmm. That's a language by language thing. And so like these examples, though, follow that kind of pattern. And so there are ways, though, to say, no, the final light syllable will be stressed as well.
Yeah, so for us, we would have, kala, kala, puli, but no, we couldn't do that. Yeah, tamba. And then tamba, hembek, avila, yep, avila, yeah. All right, so anyway, you see, so that's...
When you move your mouse, and then down here in the little number, or to the one to the right, click on that, and you can go to last viewed. And you can go to last viewed again here. Actually, if you go down to that again, I think you can go back one more.
Previous. Or last viewed.
Or you can go by title if you know what you want. But anyway, I was going to say we could get back to that decision to get a right edged instead of right oriented.
I just want to see with this one.
Oh, yeah.
No secondary stress. I don't think it's super different. It's just it doesn't have secondary stress.
Yeah. And you can go, I don't know if you can go back again by last viewed because it may just, it does. Yeah. Cool. Okay. And so now you can go to the right edge option.
And yes, for secondary stress.
And so.
All right.
And so now it's, not bondule, it's bondule because of, again, how those windows are created.
Yeah. So, anyway, this is just a wonderful thing. And we can probably just share this, but yeah, I think Jessie's definitely needs to make this a feature of her website. And you can see, of course, that there's 87 slides to deal with all the different options. Very, very cool. but not like an absolute nightmare to webify like, Conlang Venture would be.
It's no 800-page book.
Yeah. All right, so there we go. Yeah, but that was, I mean, I saw that when Jesse did that. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that anybody thought of that and then implemented it. It was extraordinarily brilliant. Absolutely blew me away. Like, and she's kind of kept doing that. She just keeps surprising me, both with her creativity, the effort that she puts in, and and just the volume of it. You know, so.
You're
Anyway,
making me blush.
what else am I here for? All right, so we know that we're going to do that for the poll. We still have a lot of time. It's classifiers. I have to tell you, I hate classifiers. I find them to be an annoyance. Like you know, the type of thing where.
Miles quality. Thank you, Miles.
It's kind of like when somebody is really pedantic about coasters. Like, it's one thing if it's a table whose finish will be ruined, but like, it's like, you know, this is like one of those rustic, you know, wood tables that's supposed to look like driftwood, and they're all like, oh, coasters, coasters, and it's just like, oh god, that's my opinion on classifiers. I certainly, if you want to see an example of when I tried to do classifiers, I did them, I think, quite wrong in an old language of mine called Shaylee. You can take a look at that and see a way not to do it. But and so I'm wary of doing it here.
Nice audios. Although, I mean, David says that, but we have coasters that he loves using because they're coasters with his glyphs on them.
Yeah, those are just fun.
But yeah.
That's true, Patrick. There are a lot of times where in a language I've tried to redo something that I feel like I didn't do well previously. I think all languages have mass nouns. But yeah, that was the thing about I didn't want us to do sarcasm again, where there was just no number distinction. We wanted a number distinction. I like the idea of there being a number distinction.
I mean, at some point I'm trying to think. We haven't done a singulative yet, have we?
No, that's true.
So we could either do just a singulative or required singular and plural marking.
I'm gonna throw that in there. I'm just gonna write common.
Because that to me actually just says it's essentially like no number marking, because in general when you see the noun, it doesn't necessarily matter whether there's one or many of them. But like if you're specifying one table, like it's this table, then you would need to make it singular. Otherwise, you know, the other form is used.
Hold them horses, Bubba. We've already got a poll for this week, and I don't think we're at a place yet where we can just do a patron poll. We need to think about some of these things and flesh them out maybe next week. Yeah, and that was the thing.
I don't know that I know enough about classifiers to like. I feel like that would need to be something I research. Or do you need to scooch?
No. I was just stretching out my little legs. Think of it like head of cattle.
Where the packaging noun, as it were, changes by.
For us, in English, these classifiers that we have, they're essentially cosplay, but in Southeast and East Asian languages, they're real, and we just go around saying things like like committee of lions or whatever. No, that's a pride, isn't it? I don't
It
know.
is a pride of lions. I think it's no, it's a congregation of alligators. And then a murder of crows.
Yeah. It's funny that for us, like comparing it to Japanese, like uh, our classifiers compared to Japanese are like pronouns compared to our pronouns. um,
I feel like it's always something that it doesn't actually get used in real life for a lot of our English ones.
because it's not necessary.
But it's always like something that people love to learn. Like, did you know it's called a congregation of alligators? Yeah, it's so exciting. But it's like I've literally never actually said that other than like being able to point out that it's an example.
And that's part of the problem I've seen with like English speakers creating languages with classifier systems. They kind of treat them like as optional as we treat them in English, which is not the way that it works for languages that really make use of that as part of the system.
And Miles is saying if we do go a singulative route, we could consider having like stick or branch being the basis of its grammatical form because of, its prevalence with those coming together to create dams.
That's really good. Could actually use the same thing for creating the word for one.
Mm-hmm. So I'm now like also thinking. So when you said noun case, nominative, partitive, was that like just two cases that you were thinking, or were you thinking like those could be base forms and we could talk more?
I mean, at the moment, that was the only idea I had because I was imagining a system for like these things. It's like a system when it comes to both the combination of number, specificity, and modification. That was why these things came together. Wasn't suggesting that we wouldn't have other cases or needed.
Sure.
Yeah. So. What are our proto consonants? I would like to make a suggestion for a word for beaver.
Already? Oh, are we ready?
It's based on the little name that I gave my beaver aside from BV. And so it would be this in the proto and in the modern Sale.
That's very cute. I also did not realize that was the beaver's official name, I guess, even though I know you've said it before.
I think of it more as BB. It's kind of like a Kitty Kelly thing.
And then we have BV part 2 because the other little beaver that we have.
Yeah.
David is really good at naming stuffed animals. Like the cow I made him for Christmas is Cowsy.
Oh yeah.
And so I find it adorable. And so yeah, when I said the cow needs a name, and his first thing was, well, if I name it, it's going to be Cowsy, and I was like, perfect, Cowsy it is. But yes, that also means that if we have another cow, it's going to be Cowsy too. I like it, yes, and that should be the word.
All right, let us create 2 more words. One that ends in a single vowel. One that ends in a consonant. Not stick. Nothing that's going to end up being immediately used for morphology.
Can you say your sentence again for what you want? You want a noun
that ends in a single vowel and a noun that ends in a consonant.
Okay. And I want to remind myself of our proto-consonants. Um, okay, okay. Ooh, I like some of these. This is fun. And are you looking, does it matter for 2 syllables or 1 syllable?
Let's do 2 syllables right now.
Okay. Okay.
As a reminder, our maximum syllable is either CBB or CBC.
Okay, I'm gonna put for consideration the protoform. Depending, if you don't want a diphthong in the front half, then I have a way to shorten it. But
Highlighted for George.
a, u, ev, a, s, a, s. So audas as a protoform, and then odas.
Right, it doesn't change, yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay.
And then B U ingma a bunga.
That wouldn't change either, would it?
I don't believe so. And if you wanted a different, because we don't really have too many evals in there, we could change it to bungi or binga. Binga.
Let's leave it as ah because ah is the least likely to. It's with other vowels we might think, hey, let's turn this into a glide. We need to remember that we can't do that with everything. So let's leave it as ah. All right, now we need some meanings for these. We don't have R in this language.
We do not. We have an L and a voiceless L. Okay, so.
Not damn yet. Let's go more basic. Don't necessarily know that damn is going to be a basic term. It might be, but you know.
First thing that came to mind for bunga is a frog. Bunga, bunga.
My.
It's jumping around. Bunga, bunga. Or it could be a bird. Bunga, kaka. Oh, man.
Frog it is.
Danielle says tooth. Miles, grass. This would, of course, be for odas, because water is another suggestion. Fire.
Of course, it was D-A-M-R-E-S. I don't use language like that. I only use CD.
Obviously.
That should be pretty CD obvious, if you know what I mean.
And if you believe an ounce of what David is saying, you've never heard him do recordings. Tail.
I like grass or tail. I kind of like grass.
It feels good.
Yeah. Oh, that's Sardinian. Apologies. We have 2 words for water in Sarkije. It's not like we can't do it again, but okay.
I think and I think Bubba is calling to mind the conversation we had where the whole reason that beavers build dams is to stop the water because they're very sensitive to the movement, and so there's moving versus still water. But I also think that we could have a root that means water, and of course their preferred water is the still water, and so that's the root. And then if you're referring to running water, you have to use a modifier or something like the bad water.
No, loud water. Loud water. Love it.
And so, yeah, that could be really cool. Sparkling water. Indeed. Perfect.
All right.
Good ideas. Good ideas. All right. So where did you want to do with our little list here?
Well, we can't really get anywhere until we decide on the basic order of noun and modifier that we've got to do.
I am trying to remember all of our recent languages. Hope is V initial, right? Yeah, we have that verb up front in Hello. Yeah, keros. There were multiple roots for water in Sarkishe.
Now, both of these come with an asterisk.
Yeah.
Both of them have adjective noun order, but a small number of adjectives. And
practically non-existent in some cases.
Yeah, so for the mouse language, it's just the order is not even relevant. And for the opossum language, for Tapahla, the canonical way to modify something is with a post-nominal prepositional phrase. And so that's kind of like the de facto noun modifier order. That's adjective noun is the old one.
And in general, like cross-linguistically, having modifiers follow nouns is actually more common regardless of headedness of the rest of the language. Perhaps because a lot of them are heavier and came from much longer segments.
Let's start to write some of these things out, especially if we think that we might want to do classifiers. Grass is a good place to start. So we have grass, tall, tall, grass. We might also have, let's say, a handful of tall grass. Let's say we do grab for that. And somehow it's going to be, I don't think we have enough to even do this. So I was thinking we need a case. However, if the modifier comes second, and we need, and we're making some sort of a partitive out of it, or then
this is going to be a
moment. I got it. So then grass stick equals singulative. Have to be. Basically with the implied noun, because I think, wait, I was thinking grass, a stick of it. And then that would be singulative. And so theoretically, then it would be the same thing, grass, a grab of it. And so this would actually be the head.
And if it's the head, would it still be in that order for the grass tall scenario?
I mean, it could be. It would just be a kind of rebracketing thing here.
Sure,
we're not going to have enough room. And so it would be grass tall stick. But it would, this would be the understanding. And essentially the reason that you would do this is that you would say, before we get to the next thing, we want to stop what we're saying and say, this is now all background and this is the important thing. Which would mean that if you were doing that,
a stick of it.
If you were doing that, I think it would imply a verb final structure. Maybe.
I don't know that it would imply verb final, but it would, to me, imply not verb initial for VSO, right? Like,
yeah,
it would, to me, imply that the verb is either going to be, SVO, or it's going to be SOV.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And so let's put this like this, SVO. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And then also maybe prepositions, so that there's always some sort of verb in between the nouns or operator in between the nouns. And the prepositions would come from verbs.
From verbs, yeah.
It'd have to. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't think that what I'm seeing, I don't see any big difference between this and this, which would mean classifiers not number or no classifiers, I think. So let's do this. Class, no. Class, class, no. Number or number, no classifiers. Now for this one, I see this just basically being English order.
Right.
And then this, this I think could either be SVO or SOV.
For the potential classifier system, if it's coming from a potential, like from handful or grabbing, I could see the classifier actually coming before the adjective, like a grabbing of tall grass or a handful of tall grass, where it's not, where the stick, I can see it as part of being closer to grass because it's like a stick of grass, so like a tall stick of grass.
Okay.
But I don't necessarily think it has to be a tall grab of grass.
All right.
Oh my, it is past 4. We jumped far ahead here.
Let's leave it at that.
This is going to be a really good place to come back to, and patrons, you'll be voting on some stress placement, and that will be really good because as we start playing with these forms and making some decisions, we can also start thinking, phonoaesthetically, how things are going to sort of interact and, prefixing and suffixing the distinctions that may get made because of stress. So anyway.
Yeah.
Woo!
Also, grab may come from a word for hand.
Mm.
I wanted to make it clear why I was using that rather than hand. Because hand could also be shape or size, and I wanted to be clear this is why. Yeah.
Some of my favorite videos of beavers are just iconic, where they like just try to carry everything at once. So they've got some like giant thing in their mouth, and then they've got their arms loaded up, and they're like, doing their little side to side walk as they're trying to not drop everything. And I love it because it's like they're just like, no, it's all coming with me in one go. And so it could also come from arm, because it's like it's not just hands. It's like I've got my arm load here. All right, so thank you all for being here. First stream of February. Halo premieres in a week.
Yeah.
Patrons, if you're able to access the podcast, it is out. And I think that covers all the last minute announcements. And so we are excited to see you next week.
All right.
Until then.
Stay grammar, everybody.
Bye.